Document. Part 1. The sky above New York City darkened unnaturally as massive ships descended from the heavens. These weren't just any ships. They were enormous, metallic structures that blocked out the sun and cast long shadows over the bustling streets below. People froze in their tracks, staring upward with a mix of awe and terror. The air buzzed with an eerie silence, broken only by the faint hum of the alien vessels hovering ominously overhead. Among the crowd stood Alex Carter, a tall man in his early 30s, with short brown hair and a weathered face that hinted at years of hard work. Beside him was his younger sister, Lily, barely 18 but already sharp-witted and curious about the world. She clutched her notebook tightly, her wide eyes scanning the ships as if trying to memorize every detail. "Do you think they're here to help us?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. Alex shook his head, his jaw tightening. "No," he said firmly. "They don't look like they're here for tea and cookies." His tone carried both sarcasm and unease. He had seen enough war movies to know that when something this big shows up uninvited, it usually means trouble. A loud, distorted voice suddenly boomed across the city, shaking windows and sending birds scattering into the sky. "Humans of Earth," the voice began, deep and cold, devoid of emotion. "We are the Vorthok. Your planet is now under our control. Surrender immediately, or face destruction." The words sent a chill through the crowd. Some people screamed, others ran, while a few simply stood there, paralyzed by fear. Alex grabbed Lily's arm and pulled her away from the chaos. "Come on," he muttered. "Let's get out of here." As they pushed through the panicked throng, Alex couldn't shake the feeling of anger boiling inside him. Who were these aliens to barge in and declare ownership of Earth? It wasn't theirs to take. But what could anyone do against such advanced technology? The Vorthok ships looked indestructible, bristling with weapons and glowing with strange lights. Back at their small apartment in Brooklyn, Alex paced the living room, his mind racing. Lily sat cross-legged on the couch, furiously scribbling notes. "What are you writing?" he asked, glancing over her shoulder. "I'm trying to figure out how their ships work," she replied without looking up. "If we can understand their tech, maybe we can fight back." Alex stopped pacing and stared at her. "Fight back? Lily, they've got spaceships the size of skyscrapers. We've got rusty cars and old cell phones." She shrugged. "So, that doesn't mean we give up. You always told me never to back down, no matter how tough things get." He sighed, running a hand through his hair. As much as he wanted to argue, he knew she was right. Giving up wasn't an option, not for him, not for humanity. But where to start? They were just two ordinary people caught in an extraordinary situation. That night, as the city lay shrouded in darkness, Alex turned on the radio. Static crackled before a desperate voice broke through. "This is WNYC broadcasting live. If you're listening, stay calm. Reports indicate the aliens have landed in multiple cities worldwide. Stay indoors and avoid confrontation." The message repeated endlessly, offering little comfort. Lily leaned closer to the radio, her brow furrowed. "They sound scared," she whispered. "Everyone's scared," Alex replied, sitting beside her. For the first time in years, he felt truly helpless. Yet, deep down, a flicker of defiance burned within him. Maybe they couldn't stop the Vorthok alone, but perhaps together with others like them, they could find a way. Outside, the glow of alien lights illuminated the horizon. The battle for Earth had begun, and Alex knew one thing for certain: humanity wouldn't go down without a fight. Document. Part 2. The days following the Vorthok's arrival were chaotic. Cities around the world struggled to cope with the sudden occupation, and fear spread like wildfire. In Chicago, far from the shadow of New York's towering alien ships, Alex and Lily tried to make sense of the situation. They had driven through the night to reach the city, hoping to find some semblance of safety, or at least answers. Rachel Monroe was already there when they arrived. a journalist in her late 20s, with fiery red hair and a no-nonsense attitude. Rachel had been investigating strange phenomena for months before the Vorthok showed up. Now, she was determined to document everything about the invasion. Her small apartment had become a makeshift headquarters filled with maps, notes, and a cluttered desk covered in coffee cups. When Alex knocked on her door, Rachel opened it cautiously, holding a baseball bat in one hand. "Who are you?" she asked sharply, eyeing them suspiciously. "We're not here to hurt you," Alex said, raising his hands. "We just need help. My sister and we're trying to figure out how to fight back." Rachel studied them for a moment before stepping aside. "Come in," she said, lowering the bat. "I've been looking for people who aren't ready to roll over and die." Inside, Lily immediately noticed the wall covered in photos and diagrams. "Is that their ship?" she asked, pointing to a grainy image pinned to the corkboard. "Yeah," Rachel replied. "It's one of their smaller scout vessels. I managed to snap this before they chased me off." She glanced at Alex. "You said you want to fight back? Good, because sitting around waiting for them to take over isn't going to work." Over the next few hours, the three of them talked strategy. Rachel explained that resistance groups were starting to form across the country, though most lacked resources or coordination. Alex shared his experience as a former soldier, while Lily offered insights into the aliens' technology based on what she'd observed. Their conversation was interrupted by a knock at the door. This time, it was a teenager named Danny Hayes, barely 16, with messy blonde hair and a laptop slung over his shoulder. "I heard you're planning something," he said nervously. "I can help. I'm good with computers." Rachel raised an eyebrow. "And how did you even know where to find us?" "I hacked your phone," Danny admitted sheepishly. "Sorry, but if you're serious about fighting these guys, you'll need someone who knows how to mess with their systems." Despite his age, Danny's skills impressed them all. Within minutes, he pulled up live footage of Vorthok patrols moving through the streets of Chicago. "They're monitoring everything," he said, "but their network has gaps. If we're careful, we might be able to hit them without them knowing." The group decided to act quickly. Their first target would be a Vorthok supply depot located in an abandoned warehouse district. Using scavenged materials, they built crude explosives and modified old rifles to increase their range. Emma Brooks, a nurse who joined after hearing about their plans, volunteered to come along as a medic. On the night of the raid, the team moved silently through the darkened streets. The warehouse loomed ahead, guarded by two Vorthok soldiers, clad in sleek armor. Alex signaled for everyone to stay low as he crept closer. Clutching a Molotov cocktail made from a glass bottle and gasoline. When the explosion lit up the night, chaos erupted. The guards scrambled, giving Rachel and Danny enough time to slip inside and plant more charges. Lily stayed behind, keeping watch and relaying updates via a walkie-talkie. For the first time since the invasion began, humanity struck back, and it felt like victory, but the celebration was short-lived. As they retreated, a stray energy blast grazed Emma's leg, leaving her bleeding and unable to run. Alex carried her to safety, his heart pounding as Vorthok reinforcements closed in. Back at Rachel's apartment, the group patched up Emma's wound and reflected on what they'd done. "We hit them hard," Rachel said, a hint of pride in her voice. "But this is only the beginning. They'll come after us now." Alex nodded grimly. "Then we'd better be ready." Though battered and bruised, the group knew one thing for certain. They had proven that humanity wasn't ready to give up, not yet. Document Part 3. The victory at the supply depot felt hollow as Emma lay on the couch, her leg bandaged, but still throbbing with pain. The group gathered around her, their faces etched with worry and exhaustion. Outside, the distant hum of Vorthok ships reminded them that the fight was far from over. Despite their success, the cost weighed heavily on everyone. "We can't keep doing this," Emma said weakly, breaking the silence. "Every time we hit them, they'll hit back harder, and next time, we might not be so lucky. Alex clenched his fists, frustration bubbling inside him. What choice do we have? He snapped. If we don't fight, they'll just take everything. Is that what you want? Emma shook her head slowly. No, but running in blind isn't going to work either. We need a plan, a real one. Rachel stepped forward, placing a calming hand on Alex's shoulder. She's right, she said firmly. We got lucky last night, but luck doesn't win wars. We need intel. We need to know more about how they operate, where their weak points are. Lily, who had been quietly flipping through her notebook, looked up suddenly. I think I can help with that, she said. Her voice was soft but steady. I've been studying the patterns of their patrols. They always move in groups of 3 or 4, and they seem to rely on some kind of signal to coordinate. If we could jam that signal. Danny perked up, his eyes lighting up with excitement. I can do that, he exclaimed. If I can get close enough to one of their communication hubs, I can hack into it and disrupt their systems. It won't last long, but it might give us an edge. Alex frowned, skeptical. And how exactly do you plan to get close enough without getting caught? Those things aren't exactly friendly. That's where I come in, Rachel interjected. I've been tracking their movements too. There's a smaller outpost near the outskirts of the city. Fewer guards, less firepower, if we time it, right? We can sneak in, plant the device, and get out before they even realize what's happening. The plan was risky, but it was all they had. After hours of debate, the group agreed to move forward. Preparations began immediately. Danny worked tirelessly on his device, while Alex and Rachel scouted the area surrounding the outpost. Lily stayed behind with Emma, helping her recover and refining her notes on the Vorthak's behavior. On the morning of the mission, the air was tense. Alex double-checked the makeshift weapons they had assembled, ensuring each one was loaded and ready. Rachel reviewed the map of the outpost one last time, committing every detail to memory. Danny carried his device carefully, his hands trembling slightly despite his confidence. As they approached the outpost under the cover of darkness, the group moved cautiously, sticking to the shadows. The Vorthak guards stood rigidly at their posts, their glowing armor casting faint light onto the ground. Rachel signaled for silence as they crept closer, her breath barely audible. When they reached the communication hub, a tall, metallic structure humming with energy, Danny knelt down and began working. His fingers flew across the keyboard of his laptop, connecting wires and typing commands. Minutes passed like hours as the group watched nervously, ready to bolt at the first sign of trouble. Finally, Danny gave a thumbs up. Done, he whispered. Their signal should be scrambled for the next 10 minutes. That's our window. But just as they turned to leave, a sharp metallic clang echoed through the night. One of the guards had spotted them. Alarms blared, and red lights flashed. Across the compound, the group sprinted toward their escape route, hearts pounding. Go, 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 Alex shouted, urging them forward. Behind them, the sound of heavy footsteps grew louder as Vorthak soldiers pursued them. They barely made it out alive, diving into a narrow alleyway moments before a searing energy blast scorched the ground where they had been standing. Gasping for breath, they regrouped in a safe house several blocks away. We did it, Danny panted, clutching his laptop tightly. Their systems are down for now. Rachel nodded, though her expression remained grim. For now, she repeated, but they'll adapt. They always do. Despite the close call, there was a flicker of hope in the room. For the first time, they had struck a meaningful blow against the invaders. Yet, the reality of their situation loomed large. The Vorthak were powerful, relentless, and far from defeated. The road ahead would be long and dangerous, but giving up wasn't an option. Not anymore. Document. Part 4. The group lay low for several days after the close call at the outpost. Exhaustion and fear lingered in the air, but so did a cautious sense of accomplishment. They had disrupted the Vortex communication systems, even if only briefly, and that small victory fueled their determination to keep fighting. Rachel spent most of her time monitoring news reports and scanning online forums for any updates on the aliens' movements. She also kept an ear out for rumors about other resistance groups forming across the country. "If we can connect with them," she said one evening, "we might stand a real chance." Lily continued, poring over her notes, trying to decode more of the Vorthok language. Her progress was slow, but she remained persistent. "Their symbols repeat in patterns," she explained to Alex as he handed her a cup of tea. "If I can figure out what they mean, maybe we can predict their next move." Danny, meanwhile, tinkered with his laptop and spare parts, determined to improve the jamming device he'd used during the last mission. "It worked once," he muttered to himself, "but it needs to be faster, stronger." Emma's leg was healing slowly, thanks to Lily's careful attention and painkillers scavenged from a nearby pharmacy. Though she couldn't join the others on missions yet, she insisted on helping however she could. "Just because I'm stuck here doesn't mean I'm useless," she said sharply when Alex suggested she rest more. One afternoon, while searching for medical supplies in an abandoned clinic, Rachel stumbled upon someone unexpected: Dr. Henry Blake. A middle-aged man with thinning gray hair and glasses perched on his nose. Henry looked like he hadn't slept in days. He introduced himself hesitantly, explaining that he had been living in hiding since the invasion began. "I've been studying them," he admitted, gesturing to a cluttered workbench filled with strange gadgets and papers covered in scribbles. "The Vorthok. Their technology is fascinating and terrifying." Rachel narrowed her eyes. "Why should we trust you?" she asked bluntly. "How do we know you're not working for them?" Henry sighed, clearly expecting the question. "Because I've seen what they do to people who resist," he said quietly. "I lost my family when they first arrived. My wife and daughter. They didn't make it." His words struck a chord with Rachel, and after some deliberation, she decided to bring him back to the safe house. When they arrived, Alex was skeptical at first, eyeing Henry warily. But the scientist quickly proved his worth by showing them a prototype weapon. He had been developing a device designed to temporarily disable Vorthok shields. "This is incredible," Danny said, examining the gadget with wide eyes. "Do you think it'll actually work?" "It's untested," Henry admitted. "But based on my research, their shields rely on specific frequency patterns. If we can disrupt those frequencies, then we can hit them where it hurts," Alex finished, a flicker of hope sparking in his chest. Over the next few days, the group worked together to refine Henry's invention. Lily helped interpret the alien symbols he had recorded, while Danny integrated the frequency disruptor into one of their modified rifles. The process wasn't easy. Arguments broke out over technical details, and tempers flared when things went wrong. But, slowly, the weapon began to take shape. Meanwhile, tensions within the group grew. Alex noticed how guarded everyone seemed around Henry, especially Rachel. "We don't know him," she whispered to Alex late one night. "What if he's leading us into a trap?" Alex understood her concerns, but he also saw the value Henry brought to the team. "We'll keep an eye on him," he reassured her. "But right now, we need all the help we can get." Finally, the day came to test the new weapon. The group chose a remote location where Vorthok patrols were less frequent, but still present. Armed with the prototype, Alex led the way, his heart pounding with anticipation. When they encountered a lone Vorthok soldier, Alex raised the rifle and fired. For a brief moment, nothing happened. Then, with a crackle of energy, the alien's shield flickered and vanished. The creature staggered, clearly confused, giving Alex just enough time to deliver a fatal blow. The group stared in stunned silence. "It had worked. We did it," Lily whispered, her voice trembling with excitement. But as they celebrated their success, none of them noticed the faint blinking light on Henry's wrista. small tracker planted there by the Vorthok weeks ago. Unbeknownst to them, their location had just been compromised. Document. Part 5. The victory with the prototype weapon was short-lived. As the group returned to their safe house, they felt a strange unease in the air. The streets were too quiet, the usual hum of distant Vorthok activity oddly absent. Alex noticed at first a faint buzzing sound coming from somewhere nearby. At first, he thought it was just his imagination, but when he glanced at Henry, he saw the man's face had gone pale. "What is it?" Alex asked, sharply, his hand instinctively reaching for his rifle. Henry hesitated, his eyes darting nervously toward the others. "I think we're being tracked," he admitted finally, his voice barely above a whisper. He held up his wrist, revealing a small blinking light embedded in the skin near his watch. "They must have planted this on me when they captured me weeks ago." Rachel's face turned red with anger. "You knew about this?" she demanded, stepping closer to Henry. "And you didn't tell us?" "I didn't know how to bring it up," Henry stammered, backing away. "I thought if I helped you, maybe it wouldn't matter. I swear, I'm not working for them." Alex stepped between Rachel and Henry, raising a hand to calm her down. "We don't have time for this," he said firmly. "If they're tracking us, we need to move, now." Panic spread through the group as they scrambled to gather their supplies. Danny shoved his laptop into a backpack while Lily frantically collected her notes. Emma, still limping slightly, grabbed a medical kit and slung it over her shoulder. Within minutes, they were out the door, heading for a backup safe house Rachel had prepared weeks earlier. But as they moved through the darkened streets, the sound of heavy footsteps echoed behind them. The Vorthok were closing in. "Faster," Alex urged, glancing over his shoulder. The glowing figures of alien soldiers appeared at the end of the alley, their weapons raised and ready. The group sprinted, dodging debris and leaping over obstacles. Danny tripped, dropping his backpack, but Alex grabbed him by the arm and pulled him upright. "Keep moving," he shouted. They reached the backup safe house just in time, slamming the door shut behind them and barricading it with furniture. Breathing heavily, they huddled together in the dimly lit room, listening as the Vorthok searched outside. "This is all your fault," Rachel spat at Henry, pointing an accusing finger at him. "If you hadn't led them here, we'd still be safe." "I told you, I didn't mean to," Henry shot back, his voice shaking. "I wanted to help. You think I wanted those monsters breathing down my neck?" "Enough," Alex barked, silencing both of them. "Arguing isn't going to fix this. We need to focus on what to do next." Lily spoke up, her voice calm but firm. "We can't stay here," she said. "Even if they don't find us tonight, they'll keep looking. We need to split up." Everyone turned to look at her, surprised by the suggestion. "Split up?" Emma asked, frowning. "Isn't that dangerous?" "It's riskier to stay together," Lily explained. "If they catch all of us at once, it's over. But if we separate, at least some of us might survive long enough to regroup." Alex nodded slowly. "She's right," he said. "We'll divide into 2 groups. Rachel, Danny, and Henry will go one way. Lily, Emma, and I will take another route." Rachel opened her mouth to protest, but stopped herself. She knew there was no other choice. "Fine," she said curtly. "But if anything happens to us, it's on you, Henry." Henry lowered his head, guilt written all over his face. "I'll make it right," he promised softly. "I swear." After a tense goodbye, the 2 groups parted ways, disappearing into the shadows of the city. For hours, they ran and hid, doing everything they could to throw off their pursuers. Alex's group found temporary refuge in an old subway tunnel, while Rachel's team holed up in an abandoned warehouse. As dawn broke, the immediate threat seemed to fade, but the damage had been done. Trust within the group had fractured, and the weight of their losses pressed heavily on each of them. Yet despite the betrayal and fear, a stubborn determination remained. They had survived Warsaw, so they told themselves. Unbeknownst to them, the Vorthok were far from finished. Zorvath, the alien leader, watched the footage of the chase with cold satisfaction. Humanity was proving more resilient than expected, but that only made their eventual defeat all the sweeter. For now, though, the resistance lived to fight another day.